Nine Coliving in Tenerife is a very special place for me. I came here in the midst of the pandemic and stayed in total for over a year. Here, I met one of my best friends, and even if I'm not staying in Nine, I remain in touch with the community. This episode is with Anne Kuppens, where she shares her story from not enjoying traveling to an avid traveler and being a digital nomad. She reveals what was the initial inspiration to start Nine Coliving and how she learned Spanish and how it helped her to establish a business and build it with the support of family and friends. Please go to nerdontour.net/9, where you can find all of the show notes. Here are the links to Nine Coliving, to Anne's personal website, and everything else we talk about. So please come to nerdontour.net/9. Hello and welcome. I am Piotrek Bodera. This is Nerd on Tour podcast, and today I am talking with Anne Kuppens, the founder and owner of Nine Coliving in Tenerife. How are you, Anne?
Good. I'm really good. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. And just to be sure, your last name is spelled Kuppens or Kuppen or
Kuppens.
Kuppens.
Yeah.
Okay,
With
so
an
there
S
is
on the
some
end.
accent. Okay. Again, I am not proficient person in Dutch, and you are coming from the Netherlands.
Yeah.
So today we will be diving into the topic of what is co-living and how to start one. But before we go there, I would like to know more about your traveling adventures. So South America and Central America, this was your main destination. Why?
Yes, I've always been drawn more to Central and South America than, for example, Asia. And one of the reasons I wanted to go there when I was in my early 20s was because I wanted to learn Spanish. So I looked up Spanish courses to follow there. And then I actually met a guy in the Netherlands dancing salsa, and he was from Colombia, and we ended up dating for 3 years. He was my boyfriend for 3 years, and we traveled Colombia together for 6 months. So yeah, I actually went to Cuba first for 6 weeks to learn Spanish, like an intensive course. And then I flew to Colombia where I met him. We were there for about 6 months, traveling, living, studying, before we came back to the Netherlands.
Okay.
My passion for South and Central America was even stronger. Yeah.
So did it start even before? Have you been reading books about this place, watching movies?
Actually, it probably started with my first boyfriend. So that's my two boyfriends in the first minute of the episode, but okay. My first boyfriend, who I met in high school, was from a Caribbean island called Curaçao. It's one of the Dutch islands. So he was born in the Netherlands, but his parents were from there and his whole family was from there. And he had a uncle and aunt who were about to get married there in the year that we met. So we went there together, and he was actually the one who gave me salsa lessons for my 18th birthday because I couldn't come to the wedding without knowing the basics of salsa. And yeah,
the wedding was in the Netherlands?
No, it was over there. So we flew to Curaçao, and I spent 3 weeks there with him and his family. And I guess that's where, my love for the culture and the music and the climate, of course, and the food and everything was born. And Curaçao is not, it's different than Central or South America. It's really like Caribbean island, and they don't speak the same language. They don't speak Spanish, but something related, papiamento. But yeah, it's like the whole feeling there was the feeling of South and Central America. Yeah.
Excellent. So it's more kind of like a love story, that you fall in love first with the guy, then with the culture, and then you wanted to explore more.
Yeah.
So what was your kind of imagination before you started traveling? Like, did you have some anticipation how it works, or you wanted to dive in because it was fresh and new?
Yeah, it's funny actually, because so when I went to Curaçao with him, this was when I was 17, 18, and I actually really didn't like going on holidays. So my whole youth, I always would miss home a lot. I had a horse, and I always missed my horse too much and my friends. So it was really hard for my parents to take me on a holiday because I would never really like it. And the whole time there, I would really enjoy myself, but I would also really miss home. So I never thought traveling was something for me, actually. And then I went to university, and at my university in year 3, I think, you were obligated to take a internship abroad.
Okay.
And I actually went to Tenerife. So I ended up here I was studying animal husbandry. So basically business in animal, in the realm of animals. So I did an internship here in Tenerife for a whale watch research company, basically. So we did research on boats that take tourists, but then we would do the research on their behavior. And my thesis...
You mean the customers, the people, or the animals?
On the animals, we did research. Yeah. So if we would spot animals like whales or dolphins, it was my job with the other volunteers and students to like take notes of them and like drawings of where they were and their behavior and how long they stayed and the way they moved around and if there were other boats around and all these things. And my thesis was on whether pleasure boats, so not professional companies that you have here a lot, but the pleasure boats, if they had a significant effect on the behavior of whales mainly.
Okay.
And it turned out they actually did, because these people don't know exactly how to approach or how, whereas the professional companies, they know better. So yeah, that was my thesis on that. And that's why when my first time abroad, forced mostly for 9 weeks, and that's when a shift happened, and I decided to do my second internship abroad as well. I went to Australia, and from then on I was just like hooked to traveling and backpacking. Yeah.
Excellent. So it's an unusual story. People tend to, or at least the ones that I know, they tend to read a lot about traveling and like romanticizing how great it is to travel the whole world. So in your case, it was more kind of like, I'm fine at home.
Yeah, it came later.
It came later. So was there any significant lesson that you learned from those experiences, this traveling either to South America or to Australia, that you kind of realize, wow, there is something for me there?
Yeah, for sure. I think the whole exploring new cultures, new landscapes, nature was really big for me. And I think also just the communities that you meet while you're traveling. So my first internship here in Tenerife was with a lot of English. And they were so nice. And I was always really shy to speak English. And I was actually known at my high school and in my family to be like really bad at English. And the people there were so nice about my English and actually thought I was amazing because at least I knew another language, whereas English people don't really. A lot of the times, right? So just like connecting with other cultures and with people that you travel with and then live with, and it was just so amazing to find that community. I think that made me want to travel and just to explore new places and beautiful landscapes and nature and things like that.
So again, the language part is very significant. I remember in some other interviews you are telling that this is the basic tool that you have to connect with, especially local people, because of course when you are meeting other travelers, it's like having this very weak connection, and English is usually the only way to do some small talk. But once you want to really do your research or spend some long time in a new destination, you really need to have it. Really need to understand it. And even if you're not confident about your abilities, it's best to use them as often as possible. So again, you said that you had some struggles with English, but then you overcome them. How was the Spanish journey? Was the Cuban experience enough to get it?
Well, learning Spanish went a little different because the ex-boyfriend I met, you met Danny, I think, as well. He's an amazing guy. He lives now on the island. So he... I met him while dancing, but he didn't speak English or Dutch. And my Spanish was very, very little. So we really met spending time together, but not talking so much in the beginning. Just dancing a lot, yeah. And then when we started to really hang out, we did need to use translator to have like proper conversations. So yeah, it was very clear that someone had to learn another language. And since my dream was already to go, I actually already knew that I was taking half a year off because my job was ending. I was already planning to go to actually Cuba and Costa Rica to learn Spanish. I changed it to Costa Rica and Colombia to be with him, but like the whole plan was already set up. My time was already, taking off. And so it just all fit in. I already wanted to really like learn Spanish, but then I learned mostly also because I was with him and he didn't speak any other language. And when I moved to Colombia, his family and friends also didn't speak any Spanish. So I was forced so much, same as in Tenerife when I was with only English people, that you learn more than you would in school, or at least for me. I don't learn that well just like behind a desk. It's way more practical, and also it doesn't matter if you mess up because you need it. You're living. You're like living, and people are trying to understand you, and that way you just get way more confident to just try it, fail, but just keep going instead of in school where you feel there's so much pressure to like do it correct. And if you make a small mistake, like everyone sees it. And so my Spanish, I would say, is still like that. I most of the time just wing it basically because I've actually never after that done like a proper Spanish course. So my grammar mostly is not great, but people understand me and I have the confidence to just talk. And people understand me, of course, but so again,
you managed to go and deal with the bureaucracy, or like set up a bank account. Or the other kind of more serious stuff.
So my Spanish is there. It's not flawless, especially grammar-wise, but I can definitely express myself enough for also those conversations.
So again, the Cuba for 6 weeks, was it something like an intensive course that you paid and you had teachers and stuff?
I was living in Havana, and every day, 5 days a week, I would go to this lady's house in the middle of the city, and she was my teacher, and I'd just sit at her like kitchen table for about 4 hours, and she would just talk to me. And I still don't think it was the best way to teach at all, because she literally didn't stop talking for 4 hours, and she would just have a bunch of white papers in front of her and just write and draw and write on them and just pass them on to me. And I would leave there after 4 hours being like, okay, what just happened? She never asked me to respond or repeat something, or she was just talking for 4 hours. But she was lovely. She was really kind. And it was the local experience, I was in the middle of Havana walking to my teacher, and she
dancing
would like
salsa.
Exactly. Yes, for sure. And she would walk around with me, and so I got the local experience. Don't think I got the best class.
So after that, you moved to Colombia. And the first time you had the situation that you need to talk with the family of your ex-boyfriend, was it easy? Like you already felt that, okay, I can create a sentence with like 3 words that I know?
It was very basic, but the good thing was that, so I was in Cuba for about 5 or 6 weeks, and I didn't know, but their accent is really, really hard to understand. So they talk really fast and they mumble. So for 6 weeks, I was just like, I'm so bad at Spanish because I don't understand anything. And then I came to Colombia and all of a sudden I understood a lot, actually, because Colombians talk very clear and very pronounced really well, and they don't talk that fast. And of course, everyone around me was trying to talk even slower or more clearly for me. So actually, when I got to Colombia, I was like, oh, I'm not that bad at all. I can at least understand what people are saying. And so I had a base there that I could at least like have a small chit chat with like parents or family members of Dani, and just like, how are you? The weather's so nice. Let's go eat or whatever. And then have Dani to kind of like explain more properly, just slowly and whatever, what was really going on. And I probably missed a lot in the beginning as well, but over the course of 6 months, it went really fast. So after a few months, it was fine. Yeah.
And he was also picking up some English words or Dutch words?
No, he was actually learning Dutch because he, in order to get his Dutch passport, because we wanted to live in the Netherlands, he needed to pass like a Dutch language course as well, language test, which was really hard because since my Spanish was now going so well, it was really hard for us to switch to Dutch because he didn't know any Dutch. So it was kind of a struggle there. But yeah, he ended up passing. So he knows quite some Dutch now. And so that was really good. But yeah, it was not enough for us to speak or to have a conversation. So we always spoke in Spanish.
Okay. Yeah. And now, after many years, when you are meeting, you are still speaking Spanish to each other.
Yeah, we mostly speak Spanish. 2 weeks ago, my mom was here. So we went to visit him in the south. And then he does speak quite some Dutch as well, my mom. My mom doesn't speak Spanish, but she does speak English. But he speaks Dutch with her mostly. And his cousin was there as well. So we were also speaking English for him. So in the end, it's a big mix. But the two of us, we speak Spanish still.
Excellent. So in terms of those destinations, because you mentioned Cuba, Costa Rica, Colombia. Have you also traveled through other countries in South America?
Yeah, so the first time I just did Cuba and Colombia, but then a few years later, I traveled by myself. I started in Mexico and I took half a year to end up in Colombia again. But so I went through the whole of Central America. I only skipped Honduras there. So I did all the other Central American countries. And then I did by bus, just like very slowly. Then a few years later, again, during my remote year, which I'm sure we might talk about later as well, but I went to Argentina, Peru, and Chile. And I'm a really, really big fan of the Dominican Republic. So I've been there twice as well. And that has my heart a little bit. So that's also in that area. So I've seen quite a lot from that part of the world. Yeah.
And when you were traveling all alone, your Spanish was good enough, to get by.
Yeah, this was after my relationship with Danny. So we'd been living together and like being together for 3 years, only speaking Spanish. So, but by that time, my Spanish was was really good. Sometimes I even wonder if it was better then than it is now after living for 3 years in Tenerife. But I speak so much English because of, Nine and the community that I sometimes wonder, was my Spanish better then or now? But so when I moved...
speak with us in Spanish only.
That's
the new rule at Nine.
I should definitely speak more. But I do, of course. So But when I did travel through Mexico and down all the way to Colombia, my Spanish was good enough to live there. Yeah.
And in terms of organizing the whole trip and feeling confident what to do, what not to do, I know that for guys traveling alone, that's like no brainer. Like just pack your backpack and go. But how do you view it? From the perspective of women traveling alone in South America or Central America? Yeah,
I never felt really like that it was an issue or a problem. I was aware, of course, and I learned a lot in Colombia about like just little tricks and little ways to make sure that you're safe, which was really good. There's like, I don't know, like you take them with them and you use them in your next travels, like a really small thing. For example, is that in Colombia, I always learned that if you go to an ATM to get money, you never take the same route back. You go one way and you take another road back so that if someone... So the people don't see you come back from that ATM, basically. The little things like that. But other than that, I really stayed on the backpacker trail. So I say traveling alone, but that just meant I left home alone. But I was never alone there because there are so many people backpacking that same route that I had quite some travel buddies that I did part of the journey with. Yeah, so in the end... I don't feel like it was a problem being a woman, especially in most of the countries out there. I don't think it was a problem at all. Yeah.
So every time you were going for some day trip or something, you always had
I would usually
friends.
be with people. Yeah, I spent a few in Costa Rica. I spent some more time alone, but that's also quite a safe country. If you would be alone somewhere out of those countries, it's probably Costa Rica or Mexico maybe. But no, most of the trips and I did with people. Yeah.
So is there any particular place besides Dominican Republic that you recommend, or maybe within the Dominican Republic?
Yeah, definitely. So in the Dominican Republic, I went to the north coast of the island. Most people, when they book like a holiday, they go to the south. It's where you have Punta Cana, I think, with all the big resorts and stuff. But then the north side of the island, kind of like in Tenerife, is where you have amazing, beautiful nature, jungle, beaches. And there's this tiny town called Cabarete. It's quite popular amongst travelers, but also expats or people that kind of get stuck there for a while, for a year or 2 or 3. And there's a lot of surf and kite surf, and now some more nomads as well. I think there's a co-working space that opened recently that wasn't there when I was there, but there was this really nice cafe that says they made how do you call those? Not crepes, but waffles. It was like this waffle house. Amazing. And they had really strong Wi-Fi. So there you saw all the nomads basically like sitting and having their calls and doing their work. So it was already happening a little bit. This was right before, the month before kind of like COVID happened. So I was there in January of 2019. So I would really recommend Cabarete. And I think one of my friends who I met there put it really well. It's one of the very few places in the world that we've been where the locals, the expats, and the tourists work really well together.
Okay.
So you see everyone in a bar having fun together, and it doesn't feel like there's too much of like, oh, but the locals, oh, but the expats, oh, but those tourists, you know? What you usually have in other places that become quite populated or popular. So that was really special. And then in Costa Rica, I just have a soft spot for Montezuma. It's this really tiny town on the coast with great surf. But it's also, I don't know if you've been, but Costa Rica, when you go to the coast, all the towns are just really long strips of road. There's not really a center. Whereas Montezuma is the only one that I found there that has like a tiny center. Where there's like a market and like a bar and whatever. So that's what I really, really loved about that place. And the surf was amazing. So yeah.
Okay, definitely details about those places will be put in the show notes of this episode. Yeah. And let's move to the topic of the remote year that you mentioned.
Yeah.
This is a special program designed for aspiring digital nomads or those that are already living this life, but they really want to have something organized. Yeah. So for 1 year, you're signing up for this special thing that is trying to bridge typical travel agency with a program for what you do every month with people who are working remotely and want to see the world, but without thinking and organizing and planning. It's all on their side. Why did you decide for signing up for such a thing?
Yeah, because I wasn't super aware of digital nomadism and remote work at the time, because I was always just traveling, coming back, trying to earn more money, traveling again, coming back, you know, the typical backpack routine.
Yes.
And then I, at some point, just saw on Facebook this message of remote year, explaining that you could travel the world for a full year, working remote with a big community around you. And I just thought, that's me. I'm going to do that. I want to do that. So I had to ask my job at the time if I could work remote for a year, which was, of course, not something that was very out there yet. But I was very lucky and I got to do that. So yeah, it was very much right from the beginning when I saw that message on Facebook, I was like, that I will do that. I am going to like that. That is happening. So I did. Yeah.
So we are closing the loop from someone who was not really enjoying traveling to the person who just saw some advertisement on Facebook like, oh, they want to join us. What was your job at the time?
I was an account manager for an IT company. So I was actually quite bound to be in the Netherlands because I was always on the road visiting clients and stuff. But for the year, I got to change my job to being customer service.
Okay.
And help desk, basically. So I worked a little less than I used to, I think 4 days spread over 5. And I just had shifts that I would be behind the computer and behind the phone to just answer questions from customers.
And would you need then to kind of follow the time zone of the Netherlands?
Yes. So I worked like on the help desk itself, I worked 4 hours a day, so I could kind of pick either the afternoon or the morning, depending on time zones. But yeah, it still meant that in South America, I started at 7, which is fine, but a bit early, but fine. And in Asia, I was working until 12 at night. My shift. But because I was with such a big community with multiple people who were doing this, and we always had a big workspace available for us for 24 hours. In Asia, this was actually really fun because there was also a group Americans who had to work from like 12 to 4 or no, from like 8 to 4 or 10 to 4. So I was always at the end of my shift was always the beginning of their shift. I was just one big party there at night in the workspace. We were like every 30 minutes we would do like push-ups, and there was this 24-hour grocery store downstairs. So we would get all the candy and all the Asian snacks and just be, it was actually really fun. And those people that worked until 4 a.m, we would then meet for breakfast after their shift in some kind of cafe. And
so cool. So does it mean that you would need to kind of downgrade a bit your position in the company to keep working with them?
Not so much, because I was already working on another project on the side. So working 4 hours for me, 4 days was good. And I think I already was on 4 days with them before as well.
Okay. So it all kind of landed nice that you could talk with them and they were flexible enough to allow you to do that. Did they have any kind of requirements for you that, you need to report that you are doing your job correctly, or was there anything that kind of they restricted?
With an help desk, that's quite easy because if no one picks up the phone, I'm not there, So it's very easy to control if I was there or not. And I had just these tickets that I had to go through. And so I couldn't really not be at my job those 4 hours, especially those 4 hours. So, I think that was also not an issue. I think it was more beforehand. The fact that I chose remote year helped to convince my job, because they were promising a workspace and they were promising good Wi-Fi. And I think if I would have come up with the idea myself of like, hey, I just want to travel the world and I can, I'm sure I can work wherever I want. Before, like now we know a bit more, but back then they would have maybe not had the confidence that I would make that work. We were also going to Morocco, for example, and if I would have done that by myself, it would have been a different situation. But because Remote Year was kind of responsible for offering me this setup, they were okay to give it a try.
Sounds very good.
And actually, it worked so well that after me, another colleague of mine went on Remote Year too.
From the same company.
From my team.
Wow. Yeah, so this is definitely a good recommendation for anyone who is still struggling with this idea. And do they accept the payment for the whole program in like monthly chunks? Or
it is a monthly payment. You pay a deposit up front and then it's a monthly payment.
Okay. And the 1 year, is it like requirement that you need to start and finish, or can you get away after 3 months or go longer?
So you can always quit, of course. We had some people quitting as well because it just really wasn't for them, or because of personal reasons, or lost their job, things like that. So we started with 67 people and we ended with 52, I think. And this was really in the beginning of Remote Year. So we were group number 4, and now they've actually also been there's another owner now, and the groups are way smaller also because of COVID, I think. So now you're with like 20 people maybe. But there's always people that, go and they decide it's not for them.
Yeah.
So then you just lose your deposit.
Mhm.
But yeah, you just don't pay for the month's upcoming. I think. I mean, that's how it was for people that were in my group. But they also do 4-month programs.
Okay.
So you don't have to commit to a full year. I would for sure, but you don't have to. Yeah.
Besides the great connection that you created between the people there, are there any other special elements that you now feel that built your confidence or built your life experience after the whole thing?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we did so many things. We saw so many things, but the group and the connections with the group is the main part. Like that is so special to be with 50 people for a whole year and go through all of that for a whole year.
So you start at the same time?
Yeah, it's the whole group that moves over the world. The 50 of you from one country to another. You go all together in a plane from one continent to another. So that makes that remote year is very different than any other experience, I think, travel wise, right? But yeah, of course, other than that, I did so many amazing things and I saw like 4 continents in a year. And
Who are the people that would benefit from this the most, do you think? Who should try it?
I think there's 2. I think one, if you're not sure, like if you have not done remote work or, traveled while working yet, this could be a really good start. Because, they do organize a lot for you and you don't have to worry about things like, can I find good Wi-Fi? Where do I live? All these things, even visas and things like that, they organize for you, I think. So that's, I would say that's for people that have never done this. And it's for people that just don't want to deal with all the organization as well. And that rather pay someone to do it for them. Because I think if you are already going to co-living spaces and you're already used to this lifestyle and you don't mind just like booking it yourself, basically, then I'm not sure if it adds a lot anymore. But I think for people that have never done it yet, could be a good way to get into the lifestyle and to convince your boss as well. Although I think now co-living spaces themselves can also be a good
destination or
it can be option. A good proof to a boss like, hey, they have the whole setup, don't worry. But otherwise remote year can help you with that as well.
Do they offer some kind of special paper or some presentation for your boss to convince them even more?
When I started, they didn't. This was quite in the beginning, but I think at some point they did have help for that. But right now I'm not sure.
And how much autonomy or freedom while on the program do you have? Is it that from Monday to Friday you have the time to work and maybe some afternoon activities, and then weekends are completely off? Or is there any kind of regularity of what is happening?
Yeah, there is a routine, but you have a lot of freedom, and you pick where you want to be or where you don't want to be. A lot of people in my group even went on like a bunch of side trips, so they wouldn't be there somewhere for a week, or they would skip a whole month because they'd already been to Spain and they went somewhere else. I did that actually. I skipped Malaysia and I went to Indonesia. So you have a lot of freedom, but there is tracks, they call it. So during the month in a city, there's a city team as well, and they will organize in the weekends or at night a few different activities that you can sign up for. And then there's usually a welcome party and a goodbye party in every city, things like that. So there's things to do. People organize a lot themselves, of course, as well. But there's a lot of freedom in what you want to join and not. So it's kind of like you're just living in a city. You just have a bunch of roommates or friends around,
Yeah, it feels very special. Yeah, it's something that if you are new to this whole thing, then definitely you should try. Okay, let's switch gears towards being an entrepreneur and running your own business. We talked a bit before recording the podcast that you had a business with your brother, with Jan, Could you tell me more about the backpacket?
Yeah. So this happened after I came back from that backpack trip solo. And my brother was, he's a web developer, web designer, and he was ready to do something new. And he really wanted to do like an e-commerce website, which he hadn't done before. And I just came back from my backpack trip. So we're kind of like brainstorming a bit like, oh, what would be a good e-store and things like that. And so we came up with like a basic kit with everything you need when you go backpacking for the first time.
Okay.
And we were actually so enthusiastic about it that we started doing this together. And we did for about 2 or 3 years. Until I moved to remote year. Actually, during remote year, I was still working with him. But then after we decided that I would like go do my own thing and ended up moving away. Okay. But yeah, so that's how that started. And Jan was really kind of like the force behind that with all the knowledge as well. I was more I knew the market the best because of all my backpack trips. And like, so the products were more my specialty, I would say. Like I had more knowledge about like, okay, what do these backpackers actually need, and what does it have to look like, and how, and he was the back end of all of that.
Was there a lot of research or market research that you did that, there is no specialized shop in the Netherlands for that, so that you decided to do?
We did quite some research. There's a few shops like that in the Netherlands, but no one who is offering like a kit that you can kind of like build on later. But we really wanted to offer one product that people don't have to think about. Like, okay, apparently this is what I need when I go backpacking for the first time, which really worked as well that way. And then people could also give it as a present for someone who was going on like a trip for the first time.
What was in the kit?
Like things like a little travel towel that like, the ones that are microfiber. So they
quick dry.
Yeah, they dry really quick. There was a headlight in there. There was these refill bottles to put your shampoo and stuff in there. There was a small ASBO kit, like a
first aid
kit. Sorry. Head plugs for if you're in a hostel. Like, there was quite some things. I think in the end we had like 21 things in the kit or something.
Was it also branded with your logo?
Yeah, it was all branded. And so a lot of the research that we had to do was also just like the suppliers and where to get everything, and the materials and all these things, and the brand on top of it. And so it was a fun project. It took a lot of time, but we ended up having a really cool website that worked really well. Yeah.
And your brother is still running the business, selling those kits and backpacks.
He is, but because of COVID, no one is backpacking right now. So for the last 2 years, it's been kind of stopped, and that's really hard, I guess. Really sad, because it was going really well just before COVID. Actually, he was also selling like backpacks, and he did really well. But right now it's everything's just laying still.
And was it always as a side project for you and your brother?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, luckily it was. Yeah.
So he also has some other like main job.
Yeah, he's a web developer, web designer, and so this was his side project.
But when I check the website, it looks like it's like focusing only on the Dutch market.
Yeah.
Is that enough? Like before the COVID, was there enough Dutch travelers?
Yeah, Dutch people are crazy about backpacking.
Okay.
So I would say so many people that either just come from university or just come from high school or have a gap year go traveling. Like it's such a popular thing.
Okay.
Either for a few months or for a full year. But backpacking is something that most Dutch teenagers, or like young 20s do. Yeah.
Is it, do you think, somehow related to the culture, like the history that you had, the colonies in the past, and
and maybe because we're so small, so you would want to leave at some point and just explore a little bit of the rest of the world. But it's very normal in the Netherlands to go backpacking, and no one even looks weird about it, like no one thinks about it even twice anymore, because everyone around you is going, and even parents and grandparents and everyone right now is like, yeah, of course you go backpacking, that's what we do.
Did they also do it? Like, do you think the previous generation or previous generation did
I don't think necessarily, because my aunt was probably one of the first backpackers. No, not the first, but she was, when I grew up, she was a backpacker, and she would always go with a friend to like Peru and Guatemala and places that in that moment no one would really go to, especially not just a woman or two girls on their own. And she had this really, really old, big, heavy backpack and
with the metal frame.
Yeah, and she would go to places where now there's like hundreds of hostels, but she would just arrive there and there would be nothing. So I think it's definitely something that developed in the last, let's say, 20, 30 years for sure. And before that, I don't think she went to Peru or Guatemala and people thought she was insane. Yeah. And even me, I remember the stories about it and also the pictures. It looks like she was in the middle of nowhere, and she was, because there just wasn't the infrastructure for travelers that there's now. Whereas now Peru sounds like it's next door, you know.
Is she still traveling?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but not as much as like a backpacker anymore. But she loves to travel. Yeah.
Is she coming back again to South or Central America or somewhere else?
They do still, like now she has a husband, and they do still go to like interesting places. Yeah. Not sure what I think they went to Jordan, for example, and like, but now they do more of these group travels, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, she definitely still likes to explore the world. Yeah.
So nice. So probably now you have a lot of topics between you and her.
Yes.
Excellent. So you are now experienced with running a business in Spain, and we will slowly move to the whole section about Nine Coliving. But do you see big difference between how it is to run the company in the Netherlands and here in Spain?
Yeah, very big difference. Of course, it was like in the Netherlands, it was fully online business, and here I have a house, so it's already a very different business. So I think that's, is hard to say, but the Netherlands is just very regulated, which makes that it's one, very fast, efficient, easy, but it also makes that it's not flexible at all.
Everything has to be according to the rules.
Yes, exactly. And whereas in Spain, things take forever. There's a lot of bureaucracy. But on the other hand,
people are doing this.
Exactly. On the other hand, it's all a bit more flexible as well. So I feel like it's a whole different universe, basically, to have a business here or there. But I have to say, like, I think if you compare it to like South America or Central America, Spain and Canary Islands are still quite easy to run a business. It's all very clear what you have to do. Yes, it takes forever, but there's a lot of help, and it's very, it is quite regulated. Not everyone is following the rules, but there is a lot of rules in place.
And all those skills necessary to talk with the city council or other government body to start the company and then follow with the taxes, and if anything is changing, then you need to respond quickly. Is it something that you kind of learn naturally by your own experience, or did you have some other stories or people in your family that?
Yeah, my dad is a big inspiration and help as well, and support and everything. So he's basically my business coach, I would say. He has had companies all my life. Okay. As long as I know. And also big companies that kind of grew from him being in the basement working by himself until like having like 20 people working for him. So I come from an entrepreneurial family. My dad, my brother. So that helps a lot. Not to think that it's super scary and to have backup as well. Yeah.
The confidence is something that many people are lacking. Only because they never met a person or spend enough time with this kind of person.
I hear a lot that people think I'm really brave, but for me, it didn't really feel like that because I had so many examples of people just starting companies and companies just working, and so for me it was kind of like normal.
Okay. And your dad is still running something, or now?
No, he sold the company 2 years ago, I think now.
Okay.
Or maybe only a year ago, just because he was about to retire, and then he got an offer. So he decided to sell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So now he's officially retired.
But now he's officially
after
retired.
Selling the business.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Is the industry or the industries that your father was in anyhow related to accommodation, hosteling?
No,
or...
not at all. My dad's company was in IT.
Okay.
No,
okay.
so I have no examples in the hospitality industry except for me just going there. Yeah. So that was completely new.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So why did you even consider this crazy idea to travel the world, feeling that this is something that you really enjoy, finishing your remote year and meeting all those amazing people? What was the transition? Yeah, from living the life of digital nomad and now becoming a co-living owner.
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny because like I explained, I was someone who didn't like to go on holidays, but that was really until I had my first travel.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I actually became someone who did not feel at home in the Netherlands at all. So there's a big shift there. And so from when I was teenager or late, beginning 20s, but probably before that, I was always saying that I would not end up in the Netherlands because I love the Netherlands. It's an amazing country, but I never felt like it was my place. And so when you go traveling, backpacking or nomading, you always come back to a place that you don't like, in my case, right? So I was always escaping a little bit when I was traveling and then coming back to the Netherlands, not feeling at home, not really liking it.
Is it because of the weather?
Weather's a big part. Yeah, weather is a big part. But I think it's also the lifestyle and I miss the nature there a lot. The way our society is, like the mindset of the Dutch society is for a struggle for me. Yeah. Anyway, so I went on remote year and came across this concept of co-living, which sparked like a dream in me because I was always dreaming about owning a little hostel somewhere.
Okay.
But when I came across the concept of co-living, I thought, but this is even better than a hostel because the people have more money, the people stay longer. It gives you way more of an opportunity to connect to them as well, instead of backpackers who come and go every few days. So yeah, I really got interested in the business. And then when I came back in the Netherlands after remote year, I decided to first give the city Utrecht, where I was from and where I had a beautiful house and such a good social life and so many friends and my family around. So I really felt like, just give this one more chance because you have such a good setup here, you know, like it felt a bit spoiled maybe as well to just be like, oh, I have to go back to the Netherlands because I had such an amazing life there as well. But after 6 months, I was like, no, still not my place. And then I really felt like, okay, but now then I want to find a place that is my home instead of leaving again and then coming back to this and feeling the same thing. And I was ready to kind of go somewhere for longer so that I could really build a community around me because that's what I really loved about remote year. But then after a year, you all split up and you feel like the world's ending. So I thought, what about this co-living thing? Maybe I can really do that and build my life around it in a place where I like to be, like full time, basically. Yeah. So that's how the dream of the co-living really started to like shape and come into action as well.
Very nice. I remember that many people coming to Nine ask you this question: why Nine? Why the name like this? Would you like to tell the short story for this?
It is related to remote year because in the second month that we were there, we were in Lisbon. We were split into 2 groups in terms of accommodation. And my group, we were living in a place called Nine Student Living. So it was a big student house that was empty for the summer. And it just had such a good community vibe because the garden and the kitchen and the communal spaces, but even like the little corridors with the rooms that we had and stuff. It really, really worked. And because it was our second month, it was such a great space to really get to know people. Because we were right at the beginning of the journey of like getting to know each other. So we spent a lot of time just like cooking there, making music there, having movie nights. So I really, really loved that space. So and also because in a lot of the other cities that we were in apartments with maybe 2 or 3 people. Whereas here we were split into 2. So there was like 30 or let's say 20 or 30 of us, right?
Yeah.
So it was a big community there in that house, which was really nice. So the whole year after that, when we kind of moved to other places, I kept hearing myself say, oh, I wish we had 9 still here, like, oh, I wish we could still be in 9. Exactly. I wish we could have just taken 9 and bring it with us everywhere. Just in terms of that space. So yeah, when I was looking for a name for my co-living, I was just writing down some memories of like, what were places that I resonated with during that year or before, or and I was looking for something short and catchy as well. And when I thought of 9, I was just it hit me like, that's it.
So nice. And in terms of the size, would you compare that the current building where the co-living is more or less the space that you had in Lisbon?
I think it was a bit bigger, but it was just more like so the kitchen and the garden were communal, but other than that, it was really a student flat. So it was all different rooms with a bathroom and a corridor. So we now have also a living. There was no living room. There was no garden. Like there was a garden, but
this setup is much better.
This is different. Yes, I would say so. Yeah. Yes. But that was also in the middle of Lisbon. So there was just a very different setup. But and it was a bit bigger, I think. Yeah.
Okay. So you had a dream. You decided with the name, but you're coming back. That would be the second time, on Tenerife.
Actually, I've also been to Tenerife with my parents twice on a holiday.
Yeah.
So I'd been in Tenerife 3 times before.
Okay. But you never arrived to La Orotava.
I'd only been in the south of the island, actually. So I didn't even know the north existed. Yeah. So in my head, Tenerife was a place for holidays, for resorts, for,
That's the feeling when you are in Los Cristianos.
Yes.
Areas.
And when I was working with the boats, with the whales and dolphins, it was also just in Los Cristianos and in Las Americas. So I had never considered Tenerife a place to live until I started doing research online, basically, for my co-living, because I decided I wanted to start a co-living in Europe. The obvious choice for me would have been the Dominican Republic, Colombia, Costa Rica.
But they are not yet
somewhere over there, But it felt just a little bit too hard or too big of a step for me to go there by myself, start a business, build maybe a whole house, have my family so far away from me as a woman on my own in these countries. We all know the stories about them. So I thought, okay, so what if I just start in Europe to just make the step for myself a little bit more doable? And I really wanted to have my parents kind of around because they're such a big support. And because I already spoke Spanish, I thought, okay, let's start searching in Spain, because otherwise I have to learn a whole new language first, because like you said, I'm a big advocate of saying that you need to learn a local language first, right? Before you start a company. So I started researching Spain, and the Canaries were kind of an obvious result. Once I found out that there was surf fair, that there was this whole like north side of Tenerife, which was way more local, the great weather all year round, of course, the Spanish. Of course, the Canary Islands is 7 islands, but Tenerife and Gran Canaria are the biggest ones, right? So they're also the best connected, and they have the most variation of things to do. And Gran Canaria already had a big nomad hub in Las Palmas, the capital. And so I found all these co-livings there and co-workings there and groups on Facebook. And when I looked at Tenerife, there was nothing. Like,
which
nothing.
Is super weird.
Yeah, there's one co-working space, co-working in the sun. And so I was like, okay, Seems
That's
like
right.
seems like Tenerife might be an option. Yeah.
Before we dig deeper in this thread, did you ever consider the Dutch islands in the Caribbean?
No, not really, just because they were so far away.
Okay.
I really liked the fact that my parents could be here in 4 or 5 hours and that I could be there as well. Also, being in Europe, working with the euro, having full right to buy and start a company here, buy a house, all these things.
Okay, so the north of Tenerife, this more local space and little cozy town of La Orotava, you're landing here for the very first time. Did you already have like a short list of 10 real estate that you want to go and check and see?
Yeah, for sure. So I started just looking at properties, and it was not necessarily in La Orotava. And I contracted or I reached out to a local real estate agent here. And they told me they could show me houses, right? So I booked a ticket to come here with my parents in January 2018. And before that, I just sent, I don't know how many links of houses to them. And this is where my dad, as like a business consultant, basically came in as well. And he was like, okay, Anna, if you want to look at a house here, then don't narrow your search now. You will want to look at really, really cheap houses that you think are never going to be suited, and really way too expensive houses, just so that you get a good impression of the market. So I sent them, I don't know how many links of houses from like 4 bedrooms and 100,000 euros to like 2 million euro villas, actually. And they made a selection. I did tell them already that I was interested.
The local agency.
The real estate agency. I did already tell them that I was interested in the north of the island and that I was specifically interested in La Orotava. And they did not understand that at all. They were like, why? Why do you want to go to La Orotava?
There's nothing there.
It makes no sense. It is cold and it rains all the time. Plus, if people want to find a job, they have to be in the south. And I was like, yeah, but that's not the concept.
So they didn't understand at all.
It was really hard to explain the concept of a co-living. They really thought that I was going to provide work for people. And I was like, no, I just need really, really good Wi-Fi. So they, of course, listened to what I had to say. And so we looked at 11 properties in 10 days. And I think that 4 of them were in La Orotava. And the rest were kind of spread all over the island. So we saw some in the south as well, and some others in the north. But the day before we went to look at houses in La Orotava, my parents and I, we went to look around the town. So we took a bus here and we kind of walked from actually the bus station through the street that we're sitting now. We had a coffee there at the little Molly, and then we walked over the bridge into the historical center, and we got such a beautiful impression. And we took a picture, of course, from the bridge down the valley, not knowing that I was taking a picture of Nine, and not knowing that we were actually looking at my future home, of course. So yeah, I got a really, really good feeling with La Orotava. And then the next day we went to look at houses, and one of them was the building that Nine is in now. And all 3 of us just fell in love. And none of the other houses came even close. So,
what was the state of the building?
Quite good. Yeah. I mean, I did a lot of work and I remodeled most of the bathrooms. We painted everything. We cleaned everything. The front of the house is fully new. So it was a lot of work because it's such a big old house. But the house was already livable, it wasn't a ruin at all.
And the previous owners had some idea of Airbnb or something like this? The
previous owners were a Spanish couple that had rooms in Airbnb, but his dream actually was to have a hostel guest house type where they would also offer Spanish lessons. So already kind of like a co-living, just not for nomads or digital nomads, but that never worked out. So yeah, at some point they were a bit older and they decided to sell.
Do they realize how the whole thing turned up?
Yeah, the wife actually came to stay at Nine.
Oh, okay.
1 year after I opened, she came for like 3 nights. So that was amazing. She loved it. And yeah, right from the beginning, we kept kind of in contact as well. And they were really supportive of the idea. But yeah, she actually came to stay at Nine. So that was really, really cool.
Excellent. So nice to see those connections. Yeah, that maybe they had some dreams and they never made it, but you are coming and you are essentially fulfilling those dreams.
Yeah, I think they were really happy that what became of the building and that we were using it in such a good way now. Yeah.
Okay. But this is still the very beginning. Yeah. You just found a very good location in a very nice town. And how was the first 3 or 6 months when you need to still renovate or just paint the walls? It's so many of them. Yeah. You cannot do it by yourself. So how did you manage to assemble the crew to help you?
Yeah, so I had quite a good plan. So what I did is after we saw the building, I went home and 4 months later I moved. So in those 4 months, I was building a website, I was printing stickers, I was just like everything. All over the place getting everything, like I did a lot actually before I even moved actually in the house because I had such a clear vision of what I wanted. And one of the things I did is invite people from the remote year network and my own friends and family to come over in June and July. So the first 2 months of me owning the building to help and remodel and basically stay for free and work whenever they need it, but also help out with painting and all these things. And because I have such a big network in the remote year community, because remote year by then had done like maybe 6 programs. So, and all these people are in one big Slack group.
Yeah.
So I had 26 people showing up in 2 months.
Excellent.
And 19 of them I didn't know. And a lot of them are now on the doors of Nine, actually. Of course, they weren't all there at the same time. Some came for a week, some for the first part, some for the other parts. But so from actually day one, I had a big community around me, helping me getting the space ready. And then in August, I was there alone for a while. And September I opened. That was a bit slow in the beginning, of course. And then around October, end of October, like mid-October to end of October, it started to fill up. 2018, yeah. And then actually the first winter, I was not as busy as I am now, but I had a really, really good winter right away. Yeah, because it is such a good destination for nomads in winter. So people were literally just Googling co-working or co-living Tenerife.
Yeah. Where is the sun still shining in Europe?
Exactly. And because a lot of people know about the hub in Gran Canaria, people are like, okay, there must be something in Tenerife as well.
Yeah. So they can hop on a ferry.
Yes, exactly.
Local plane.
Yeah.
Cool. So it seems that the renovation part works like in the workaway, that you are inviting volunteers that they can stay for free. Yeah. And part of their tasks is to help with whatever is to be done today. Yeah. In terms of the whole shape of the space, did you also hire some architects or some other designers to made it, or you did it by yourself?
I mostly did it by myself. I had a very clear vision of what I wanted, and I found an amazing contractor that still works for me whenever I have anything that I need to do in the house. And
building wise,
like so he would be actually the one changing the bathrooms and all these things. But I do have a architect. But mostly because here in Spain, you need an architect for all your paperwork as well to get license and all these things. Okay. So she's helped me a lot. But the house itself, I mean, it's so perfect the way it is. I didn't even break one wall in the whole house. So everything was, I built a wall now, but we just added another bathroom, but so it was not that necessary to have someone really look at and I have a quite good spatial, my vision was just really clear of what I wanted to do with every space in the house.
So nice. Okay, so we have the step of finding the building, having the group of friends from remote year to help you renovate the whole thing. And then that was interesting also to listen to you recently on the conference, on the People conference about the remote work, the panel about co-livings here, that for you, the best marketing strategy was to get on the list of the co-livings. Yeah,
Yes.
that the digital nomads tend to flock together, and once they hear enough good recommendations from other people, from other friends, that oh yeah, there is this new thing and you should definitely go there. Was it again through the remote year community that you managed to somehow spread the news?
No, not so much, because my first guests were remote year as well. But I do feel like there is a bit of a difference between the nomad community and the remote year community. So the community that hops from co-living to co-living is not necessarily the people that have been on remote year. I find out when I started to get some people that were like digital nomads that were already living in different co-livings, I just kept hearing the same names. It was very clear. I kept hearing Sun & Co. I kept hearing Sundesk, and mostly those two. And one's in Spain, one's in Morocco. And I just knew, okay, I need to be in that list. Like when people talk about co-livings, they need to say like Sun & Co., Sundesk, and Nine. You know, that was my goal.
Okay.
And that just happens organically, right? If you do a good job, if people like what you're doing, then they start to talk to other people about it. And slowly you become,
the destination.
A co-living on that list. And now there's way more, and that's really nice. But I did kind of soon enough, because there was not that many out there at that moment anyway. So soon enough, I was on the list of the, with those two and with some others. So that was very organic but very intentional again as well. Like, I knew I needed to make it to that list.
And did you think about reaching out to those co-living and somehow working with them for promotion, or that happened later?
That happened later. In the beginning, I was kind of just like modest, I guess, to just like first get things in order, first start running. And but then at some point we did get in contact. So now I actually work together with them. I've been to a few of them. I haven't been to Sundesk in Morocco yet, but it's definitely on the list.
Cool. It's nice to hear that, especially when a new industry is emerging. People tend to help each other and just support each other, because everything is so new that it's better to just fight together against some bureaucracy or some other struggles instead of in other industries there could be such a fierce competition, and they would try to somehow fight with you with any means that they can. So what was the hardest part in all of those steps to get to the running business for you?
I would say the Wi-Fi for sure.
But then again, you had someone to come and help you with that, isn't it?
Yes. But like getting it in the first place was a big struggle. They promised me I could get glass fiber when I bought the building. And it ended up that the guy who promised me that had never been to Nine, had never been to the building in the time that he took weeks to come up with a quote, and he was supposed to do research. He actually never, when he came the first time when I was there, he had to ask me the address, and he told me he couldn't find it. So that said enough. And it turned out that my street was not connected to the glass fiber, and because it's in a historical street, they didn't want to open it, blah, blah, blah. So that was a struggle. And luckily, he came up with a good solution, and we have fiber now. But that was stress, because I just bought this massive building. And literally a day after I got the keys, he tells me I couldn't get the Wi-Fi. And I knew that my whole idea of like the company and the business would fall and stand on Wi-Fi, right?
Being connected to the internet.
Exactly. So that was a very stressful period. But I'm kind of happy that it happened this way, because I feel like if he would have told me in the beginning, honestly, like we cannot get you Wi-Fi here, or not the fiber through the wall, basically, I would have maybe not bought this building. And now I was already there. I already bought it. So we had to make it work.
Maybe that's also an important lesson for anyone interested in setting up their own co-living, that the technical difficulties tend to be less and less important, even though that, of course, being connected to the internet is like the most important thing for digital nomads.
Yes.
It's like they are fine without water or energy.
Hot shower.
Like, exactly.
It's okay. Where's my Wi-Fi?
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you don't have a proper internet, there is no way for them to do their work and earn money and stay at the co-living. So it's super important. And of course, now there is more and more competition in the space coming. Yeah, like it's just a matter of time when we'll have the satellites from Skylink or some other companies.
And now also there is around Nine a few places where people can actually go to work in a cafe if necessary. But we haven't had a lot of like problems with the Wi-Fi itself. The only things we've had was like power cuts, and that's where you came in and helped us. So now we have these batteries that will work for 6 hours. Twice we had a power cut on the whole island. For some reason it happened twice on a Sunday, luckily. So on Monday everyone could go back to work, but that was very interesting. Such a surreal, like, it's really, then all of a sudden you realize like, oh yeah, we are on a small island. But yeah, other than that, not too many struggles, luckily. Yeah,
excellent. I'm really happy to leave something behind after my stay at
so you definitely did, yes.
And the batteries was definitely something that we already tested it running, because when the power was down for the whole building, the most important issue was for people that they were losing connection with their Zoom meetings or being on some
even if you're in the dark, it doesn't matter as long as you can still
because the laptops that they are working on, they have their own batteries, so they can still work, and the connection now, the internet is still running, being supported with the batteries. And again, with the topic of having your own co-living, you gathered enough experience to now share this with others. Could you tell me more about what is it, how to start a co-living video course?
Yeah, I would say it's quite a small, modest side project. So, but I'm really happy with it as well. On the other hand, and expanding a little bit right now, I got a lot of emails and questions from people that reach out to have a call or answer some questions over the email, because people want to start a co-living as well. And that happened already a little bit before COVID, but after the first lockdown, basically, I got so many messages from people that I couldn't just keep up, because I would always take quite a lot of time to answer those questions and have calls with people.
And now you just send the link.
So at some point I thought this is not possible anymore, but I still would like to share my knowledge, or at least my experience with people. So I decided to make a little video course with the 7 basics basically on what to know if you want to start one, all based on my experience more than anything, but with a lot of practical tips and stuff, I think, as well. And that's now online, so people can go buy that, and then you just get these 7 videos. And now I'm working on the second course, basically, which is all about finances, because I got a lot of questions after from people who were like, okay, this is great, but I need to know more about money and finances. And I'm not a finance person at all. I don't relate really to money. I give it away really easy. I forget when people owe me money, or if I owe people money, like the whole concept of money, I don't like it. Doesn't resonate with me, but of course we need it. So I have luckily an amazing manager at Nine who was an accountant, Sylvia. So she does all these things for me now. But I have again filmed 4 or 5 videos, I think, explaining the financial side of co-living, but really only from my perspective, because I get a lot of questions from people that I just cannot answer, because it depends so much on where you are, how your situation is, the local tax system, all these things. So I just gave a lot of information about my situation and how people can use it. But I struggle lately a little bit with having the time to really get it done. So it's coming, but it's very late.
Would that be part of the same course that you did, or a separate
It will be like
program?
a separate course, but the people that have already bought the first one will get the second one as well. But it will be like another course.
So if anyone wants to learn more, go to ninecoliving.com, and there is a button focus on the video course. So you can get into the minutiae of running this kind of business. And when I was there, my first co-living experience was in Kuala Lumpur, where I spent the whole year due to pandemic. That was like prolonged experience, but I loved it. And then I moved to Nine, and it was even greater experience because of all the people that we had. Yeah. And I am curious, why do you think community is the most important part of the co-living experience?
I think people are looking for community and they're looking for connections with others. I think especially if you choose the lifestyle of being a digital nomad, you're looking for connections and experiences and adventures, right? And you're kind of brave enough to do that on your own. So then if you find this amazing community that maybe you weren't expecting, or you weren't sure at least if you would find it, then it's like an extra gift, you know, like it's an extra special present on top of like the adventure that you already did by yourself. But then if you also find this amazing community, that makes it extra special, I think. And a lot of people travel alone, but everyone who does come to a co-living is very social and is very open-minded. So it's not just, I don't want to be alone. It's like the type of connections that you can find in this community, I think, are so special that, it just makes the whole experience so much more beautiful than when you were on your own in an Airbnb.
That's definitely tapping in to a lot of anxieties that people have even before, just having this notion that, okay, if I go alone with a backpack for a month to Southeast Asia, then I'm coming back again to my home, to my friends, to my community that I know, that I grew up with, or that I feel a strong attachment to. But if you are this full-time a digital nomad that is just hopping from one place to another, of course, being in touch over the phone, it's easy today. But having the ability to build a real connection with a human being, having the touch and the other important cues of a body language, and just being in one space together, like having a meal or having some games together, it's totally unique. And I must admit that this is definitely the most hard to explain part for people who never tried it. And some people can doubt that, like, oh, but I can find it in La Ortava, an Airbnb that is, twice the price of the co-living. So why do I even bother if I can do the same on my own? And my answer to this kind of conundrum is that no, you cannot. It's something that really needs to be set up by someone who understands what is the community, what is creating a space, what is the kind of the whole system of supporting not only the basic needs, not only the internet, but also have the actual, time and space for connections.
Yeah, I fully agree. And I think the main thing about a co-living for me is that it's not just about the community. It's about someone taking the responsibility for that community. So if you go to a student house, there's also a community, right? Or whatever, but there's no one responsible. So you have to figure it out with each other. And therefore it can go really good or really bad, or it can go back and forth a little bit because a new person comes in and it brings the whole balance of the group off, or like even in friend groups and stuff. Whereas like in a community like Nine, I think, because I take it so serious to take responsibility of this community and of like how healthy this community is, basically, it makes that it's very stable, and whoever comes into that community will fit in and get the right connections out of that, right? So I think you can do it yourself, you can do villa share, all these things, but I would say be aware that like fostering a community is a whole job on its own.
It's putting you in a strange position, that you want to be friends with everyone, but at the same time you sometimes need to be the parent, and like telling them sorry, it's
still curfew at 11, so be quiet. For sure. But it goes really natural, I think. And because people that come to Nine are so open-minded, they're so respectful, and so looking for the right type of connection. It's never really an issue. I'm a little bit maybe different than, even the volunteers or something sometimes are more in the community than I am. But I feel part of the community for sure. And I make so many connections and friendships. And so, it's not like I'm not part of it. But I'm very aware of my role, at least in the community.
And did you gain those skills before? Or did you ever manage some kind of community space or center?
No, I was just a teacher.
Okay.
High school teacher, I guess. It started there maybe. No, it has just grown from this vision and this dream that I had, and living in communities a lot. So also I am a community person, and I am a connector, and I am someone who thrives living in a community. So I think that's maybe the experience I had, but not necessarily in being the responsible person of the community yet. But
there is this interesting concept that I found at some point, that we are all having the family that we are born into, and throughout our lives we can create the family that we choose. And it's beautiful in a sense that the connections that we are creating with people who we may not be anyhow related feel sometimes so strong if we compare it to our aunties or uncles or someone who should be an obvious choice. Because I know him or her for such a long time. And if you don't have, those connections, or if you're traveling a lot, or if you're, in a completely different bubble, because now I have this experience, that my family that I was born in, they don't really understand what I'm doing. It's like for many, many years, they know that I'm traveling and doing something on a computer, but it's super important to find the people, the family that you choose, that instantly gets you. That was magical, that in the first 2 weeks when I was staying at Nine, it was that nobody kind of doubt what I'm doing and how I'm doing and why I'm here or there. No, they are all doing the same thing. So if again you are looking for the digital nomads, the true community of people who are experiencing that, who have those stories and just they love being the part of it, it's amazing to start. The remote year is something definitely that you can try for some time, but after that, if you really feel that this is something you want to go on further, then go for a co-living. And again, this is just my perspective. Staying long term is also unlocking more possibilities, because some people are coming just for a week, and
no, it's not enough. No,
it's never enough, isn't it?
It's not enough. And even 2 weeks, I would say a month is great. Probably longer, but definitely a month, because it gives you, if you're working full time, it gives you enough time to explore, and also just kind of be in your own process of all of this. Take your own time every now and then, and fully engage with the community. And I think you need all of those things, and a week is just not enough. It's funny what you said as well about your chosen family and your family from home. And what I really like about what you see happening at Nine a lot is that when people have family and friends over from home, they are so excited to show their life at Nine because they feel like now they will finally get it. And they do a lot of the times. They really then finally understand, oh, this is why this is so important or special for you. Because it's hard to grasp until you're there what this community can do for you and with you.
Especially when we are still on the phase that people understand backpacker hostels, because this is something that has been for decades, and people somehow maybe understand the co-working. It's this kind of an office that you can rent for hours or weeks in a place. But if you merge those two together and create a new quality, because that's something much better than just having a hostel with a co-working, then you have the proper co-living. And could you tell more about what kind of people are staying at Nine? The whole spectrum.
Who is staying at Nine? It's everyone who is working remotely.
Mhm.
For me, it's really important to create a community that is not monotone.
Yeah.
Because there are some co-livings, I think, as well, that are very strict in their selection process.
Yeah.
And for me, the danger in that is that if I would go look for people that fit at Nine, I would end up with people who are all like me. Or, like all have the same job, or all the same kind of age, or all like these really active, hip yoga people, which is amazing. But what I love about Nine is that we have so many different ages, backgrounds, people that are the hip yoga.
The barking you are hearing is
sometimes
from Lara,
you hear Lara in the background.
That is living in Nine.
The co-living dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to have a mix of people. Of course, what everyone has in common is that they understand they're coming to like a work environment.
Yeah.
Some people work more than others, but everyone's coming to a work environment and they understand that. It's really important as well for the balance of the co-living. If you have a few people just being on holiday all the time, I don't think it would work.
Yeah.
It's all people that are looking for connections with others. And I think that's really important as well. And I think what's really beautiful about Nine is that everyone's really open-minded and inclusive. And I think that's something that I maybe force a little bit, as in like I set a good example, I think, with my team as well, in just like really respecting and accepting everyone who comes at Nine, no matter who you are, what you eat, what you do, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I think, and that helps. So I think that's what people have in common. But other than that, all ages, all jobs, all backgrounds are welcome. And I think that's really nice, actually, about the community. Yeah.
Once again, I would emphasize how different the experience is in the co-living, that a statistical image of a digital nomad is this 30-something-year-old American white earning about 60,000 USD per year and being a software developer. Yeah, so this is like, oh my God, they all look like Mark Zuckerberg. Yeah?
Exactly,
all day in their computers.
That's so not true, yeah.
Exactly. And it's like, the moment you're walking in, and you can check it, just go to Nine Coliving Instagram, and you will see how many different faces there are. Yeah, and also in a sense of age diversity. Of course, if you would try to make some average, that would be 30-something, but there are people who are 20-something or people who are like 80-something.
Yes.
And they are all enjoying the same flow of being there because the community is so inclusive.
The 80-somethings are exceptions, but once they're at Nine, they're not treated different.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. So you can be an exception in terms of age or your job maybe when you come to a co-living, but if you're then also treated different, then it becomes... You become the exception, really, Whereas at Nine, I don't think we treat you any different. You're just part of the gang. And if you want to join the yoga or want to go clubbing, everyone's welcome. And no one even second guesses that.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean with being very open-minded and very inclusive as well. Yeah.
So do you think those are the qualities that make the whole community healthy?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. For me, it's very, very important that everyone feels like they're good the way they are, so that we're not trying to push you in a direction of like, oh, but you are not doing yoga. You should at least, you should do yoga. Or, oh, you're not a vegan. Or, even though we have our preferences as a team, I think quite strongly, like Nine is like a yoga healthy community, like probably. And that's maybe also a little bit what we send outwards a little bit. But if you are not like that at all, and you're also really not interested in it at all, there's no judgment. That's really important, I think. Yeah.
Nice. So slowly going to the end of our conversation here, what do you do after the whole busy day at Nine to relax and unwind?
Well, you just heard her bark a little bit. So Lara is my forced downtime, basically. Okay. I'm really happy I have a dog, and she forces me to walk at least 2 hours a day.
She's a very active dog.
Really nice. She's a very healthy, young, active dog. I take that very serious. So I walk with her quite a lot. And there's such beautiful walks here that, I mean, it's never a punishment to go to the forest or the beach. So I do walk a lot. I try to do yoga a few times a week. And I really love to surf. Surf is something that doesn't happen as often maybe as I sometimes hope, also because I have a dog. But yeah, those are, I guess, the three things. And dancing. I love to dance as well.
Still salsa.
Still dancing salsa, yes. Yeah.
And now it's even more possible, like the lockdowns are...
Yeah, now it's starting to lift a little bit and there's some good salsa parties around. But yeah, I would say being outside in nature and being active is what I do to unwind. And
and this is also something that people at Nine are doing to unwind.
Apart from, of course, also being with people and friends and eat and all the things. I'm quite spoiled, I think, with my lifestyle that I never have a dull day if I want. And there's always something or someone, or there's always something happening.
Yes, I think this is exactly the vibe that people are looking for. Yeah, that Tenerife is this great destination that not only offers the traditional tourism, with these 5-star hotels in the south and the surfing beaches and the vibe of just being a sunny, nice place. But now having the co-living, not only one, because there are many, many more now happening after the success of
Yes.
So definitely I wish you to spoil us even more.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes.
So thank you very much for the conversation and see you around on the island.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.